like to welcome everyone to the 2024 Student Data Showcase. I'm Dr. Christina Neumann, Associate Professor of Ancient and Digital History, as well as one of the directors of this summer's program. I'm going to be your MC as well as your timekeeper, students, today. Well, I should say students and faculty today. We are honored to have so many of you join us today in celebrating the work of our students in the Pharis Fellowship Program and the Summer Internship in Public History and Digital Humanities. As you will see today, these students are drawn from across campus and disciplines, as are the many faculty, staff, administrators, and institutions supporting them. In their presentations, our interns and fellows will be reflecting on what unites us as researchers, a shared vision of how data, broadly imagined, can be harnessed for the good of humanity. These programs are only possible through the tremendous support and generosity of our campus and community. And so I'd like to take a few minutes here at the beginning to say thank you on behalf of myself, Dr. Andrew Caporal, and Dr. Linda Garcia Merchant. First, we are incredibly grateful for the financial support of the Hewlett Packard Enterprise Data Science Institute, the Cougar Initiative to Engage, UH Libraries, and the Center for Public History. I'd like to specifically thank Vice President, Vice Chancellor for Research, Dr. Claudia Neuhauser, Site Director, Dr. Ann Dayton, Interim Dean of Libraries, Christina Gola, and SIPHDH Interim Director, Dr. Mark Goldberg. You saw and supported the vision for interdisciplinary research and hands-on training for our students. I'd also like to thank the many people who devoted their time and talents to our students. This includes all the faculty and staff project directors and mentors who gifted so much of their summer this year. From UH Libraries, thank you to Bethany Scott, Emily Vinson, Leonard Martin, and Susan Hoover for their skills workshops. Danny Fuller for the use of the Digital Research Commons and making sure our technology worked. And our amazing digital research specialists, June Young Kim and Carolyn No. From the Center for Public History, thank you to Dr. Wes Jackson for keeping all our paperwork and lunches in order. Thank you also to Miranda Ruzinski, our intrepid program manager for SIPHDH. We are also grateful for the support of our deans, including Dr. Dan O'Connor from class and Dr. Heidi Apple of the Honors College. Finally, our students' experience was greatly enhanced through multiple community partners. In particular, thank you to Dr. Amelia Wen of the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, Adina Langer of Kennesaw State University, Dr. Rupika Rassam of Dartmouth College, Thomas Padilla of the Internet Archive, Dr. Dan Price, Director of UH Community Health Workers Initiative, and Dr. Kathy Horn, Dean of the College of Education and Director of the UH Education Research Center. Please join me in thanking this tremendous array of people. I'd like to now introduce Christina Gola, our UH Libraries Interim Dean, for a welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Neumann. Wow, I'm so excited to see so many students here and honor the great work that you've been doing over the course of this summer. As we wrap up this summer and head into a new academic year, it's really a nice way to go into that transition and start a new year. So welcome everybody to the Elizabeth D. Rockwell Pavilion at MD Anderson Library. UH Libraries is proud to partner in this endeavor with the Center for Public History, the Hewlett Packard Enterprise Data Institute on the planning and delivery of this wonderful summer internship. This program is one of several that the Digital Humanities Core Facility collaboratively organizes in order to nurture and advance interdisciplinary research and create new pathways for students to receive targeted training, professional development, and hands-on experience with ongoing research projects. The libraries funded 6 of the students who took part in this summer internship program, and we're very excited to be a good supporter that way. I do have several thank yous, which actually mirror a lot of the thank yous that you provided, so I won't go into too much depth, but I do have to recognize Dr. Linda Garcia Merchant, our Public Data Humanities librarian. Probably many of you who worked with her know she is leading our effort to build our Digital Humanities Core Facility. She's a tremendous expert in digital humanities and a strong collaborator. Thank you, Linda, for working on this collaborative planning with Dr. Newman and the Center for Public History, as well as Dr. Capral, Director of the Engaged Data Science Program. The same librarians that have already been thanked, I want to thank Leo, Susan, Bethany, and Emily. These are all wonderful leaders in our libraries with tremendous expertise that they offer through these types of programs. They do everything from developing, delivering workshops on metadata and development and management, best practices in transcription, and research asset management for the long term. So thank you to those wonderful librarians, and already recognized Danny Fuller, thank you for all your work with logistics and spaces. But most of all, I want to thank all the students. Congratulations to all of you on your wonderful hard work and research. What tremendous opportunity to hear about your work and your talent today. So thank you for being here, and thank you for being students at the University of Houston. Have a wonderful day. Enjoy the program.
Thank you, Christina. We have a slight change in our program. Dr. Newhauser will be able to join us after the first intermission. So instead, I'd like to introduce Dr. Andrew Capral, the Director of Engaged Data Science.
Thank you, Dr. Neumann. It's my pleasure to have an opportunity to introduce the Pharis Fellowship Program, one of the two programs that undergraduate students participated in this summer and will be presenting their work here today. The origins of the Pharis Fellowship actually date back about 10 years to a program called Data Analytics in Student Hands that was founded by Dr. Dan Price and Dr. Peggy Lindner, who you'll hear Peggy's name several times today because her fingerprints are kind of all over the work being done across both programs. And it was founded with the idea that undergraduate students at U of H needed more opportunities to engage in student-led, project-based learning that would bridge a gap between the classroom experiences they were having in their majors and in their degree programs and the real-world data applications that they would face when they were in the workforce. And so Data Analytics in Student Hands was founded with the idea of building up an opportunity for students at an undergraduate level to work with real-world data on projects that they designed and were executed and led by their creativity and work. That program initially started with something called the Summer of Apps, which was a program that Dan and Peggy ran where they, I think, tried to build 10 separate web and iOS apps over the course of 10 weeks with 10 different community partners. And I'm not entirely sure how they lived through that experience, but that was kind of the genesis and origin of our program. The Pharis Fellowship in its current form started about 6 years ago, and we've had about 100 students go through the program in that time. This year we have 12 fellows who spent 10 weeks of full-time work with us, and the program is designed for them to select a topic that allows them to use public research data, so publicly available data sources from local government, nonprofit organizations, data sources available through university partners, to create their own research projects. The Pharis Fellowship sort of reverses the structure of a traditional undergraduate research experience in that we place our students in the role of a principal investigator instead of a research assistant. So the ideas, the work that you'll see here are driven by the students, and the mentors, actually, it's fun, we get to sort of return to our roots as graduate assistants and mentor as supportive structures rather than directive structures. So over the course of the 10-week program, along the way, our students also get about 70 hours worth of professional development, including taking courses through the HPDSI in data science. This year, they completed the micro-credential in digital humanities through the Digital Humanities Core Facility. and they experience a number of external workshops. They lead their own set of reading groups, where the readings are entirely selected and organized by the students, and they participate in many, many rounds of peer review and peer feedback over the course of the summer. What you're going to see today is is a teaser for one of the 2 research products that we ask our students to complete during the program. The first is a 15-minute presentation that they do as part of a panel, as part of a research symposium that we will run over the next 2 days. You won't see that entire presentation today because of time, but you'll see a little teaser for it. And if you're interested in joining us tomorrow, either in person or online, the QR code up here provides information about the Engaged Data Science Research Symposium that we'll host over the next 2 days. The second research product that they'll complete is a poster suitable for presentation at UH's Undergraduate Research Day next spring, which is also hosted here in the library, so thank you for that. I also have a list of thank yous that kind of overlap with what you've already heard, but I do want to take an opportunity to thank Dr. Claudia Newhauser and the entire team at the HPDSI. I also want to thank Michelle Hoffman and her team at the Research Shared Services for providing the backbone administrative support for our program, Dr. Heidi Apple and the leadership for the Honors College for their partnership, and in particular, Brenda Cruz from the Office of Communication for her support this summer. I also would like to thank our project partners, Dr. Amelia Wynn from the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency and all of the mentors that came to us from that agency, Drs. Kathy Horn and Tony Templeton of the University of Houston Education Research Center, Dr. Dan Price, Cindy Paz, and Kara Schachler, and the whole team at the University of Houston Community Health Worker Initiative, and Dr. Allison Leland and Burke Butler and the team at the Texas Defenders Service. All of these organizations provided data, mentorship, and instruction for our Pharis Fellows this summer. Also, like to thank the core mentors for our program, Dr. Dan Price, of course, and Dr. Peggy Lindner. Also, Dr. Yanni Konstantinidis, a senior researcher in the Department of Computer Science, and an instructor in DSI, and an instructor in the Honors College. I think he has like 10 different appointments, I'm not sure. And then finally, Karina George, who works with me in the HPDSI for another 2 days. This is her final week, and she leaves us, we're very proud, headed to prestigious research fellowship at the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention in Atlanta. Finally, I'd like to recognize somebody that I never had an opportunity to meet, but nevertheless had a tremendous impact on me and the students in our program. George Pharis III, Trey, was a 2011 graduate of University of Houston in philosophy and a staff member in the IT department at the Honors College until his death in 2017. He was a Renaissance man. He had interests ranging from number theory to poetry and a passion for and commitment to social justice. He was very involved in the initial planning for the DASH program, and he never got to see this fellowship in action, but he embodied what we hope to foster in our students. The Pharis Fellowship is named in his honor. Once again, we appreciate everyone taking the time to join us this morning, and we are looking forward to hearing from our students and celebrating their work this summer. Dr. Knight?
It's my pleasure to be able to introduce you as the director of the Summer Internship in Public History and Digital Humanities, otherwise known as SIPHD, because we sift through data and we sift through history and we sift through evidence. We thought we were clever. But this program is an outgrowth of the somewhat radical idea that the humanities and STEM need each other. And the best way that we can prepare our students to be global, active citizens is to make sure that they have skills drawn from both areas. Through real-world projects, cohort community discussions, skills workshops, and guest speakers, SIFT interns learn how humanities skills of deep research, analysis, and building of arguments from evidence can be enhanced and translated into new spaces for new audiences through modern technologies and digital methodologies. Interns also learn how to break out of traditional technological and engineering processes and recipes to consider the people and context behind the data and design, and how to engage responsibly and ethically in building, visualizing, and communicating arguments to diverse peoples and communities. This summer, 18 undergraduates from across campus joined an ongoing faculty research project that harnesses digital technologies, data science, and new media to engage the public with topics of historical and social significance. I am greatly appreciative to the faculty and administrators of this summer's 6 projects. And if you're here, can you please stand as I mention your name, and then we'll clap at the end. So Sirios, directed by myself, Dr. Liz Rodwell, and Dr. Peggy Lindner of Information Science Technology in the College of Engineering. So Dr. Lindner, stand up. Hang on. All right. Sharing Stories from 1977, directed by Drs. Leandra Zarno and Nancy Young from History, along with Drs. Rodwell and Lindner and Dr. Sandra Davidson. Houston History Magazine, directed by Dr. Debbie Harwell from History. The Morales Family Collection through the U.S. Latino Digital Humanities Center, directed by Dr. Gabriela Baiza Ventura, Dr. Carolina Villarreal, Dr. Lorena Gothru, and Michaela Selly. Mapping Multicultural Houston, directed by Dr. Melody Yunzi Lee of Modern and Classical Languages and Dr. Guadalupe San Miguel of History. And the 1771 project, directed by Dr. David Mazzella of English. Please join me in a round of applause for these amazing people. All right, thank you. Now, as you will soon hear in the presentations, these project directors invited our student interns into deep humanities research aimed at audiences far beyond the university. Our interns engaged in usability testing, web design, archival research, digitization of primary documents, data management and visualization, and public writing. They gained, and I hate to even say this, hard skills in digital and data literacy, web and print editing, curation and publication, critical thinking and analysis and collaboration and communication. Each Wednesday, our interns also came together as a full cohort on campus. We had faculty deliver presentations on how to do user experience research, reach public audiences in the 21st century, engage critically, otherwise known as how to not lie with data visualization, and tell a visual story. Additionally, we zoomed in 3 guest speakers who represent the intersection of humanities, data, and the digital world. This includes Adina Langer, a museum curator and digital public historian, Rupika Rassam, one of the leading voices on social justice within the digital humanities, and Thomas Padilla of the Internet Archive, who made the case for open source AI. Our amazing program manager, Miranda Ruzinski, in the back, please stand, Miranda, also led a weekly reflection and exercise based upon these talks. And if you wouldn't mind, let's give a hand for Miranda as well. And finally, and we cannot say thank you enough, thanks to UH Libraries, Dr. Linda Garcia Merchant and her team through the Digital Humanities Core Facility and Data Science Institute, our interns took part in technology and data skills workshops on topics like project ideation and metadata creation and curation. Thanks to Dr. Garcia Merchant, our interns also had the opportunity, along with the Pharis Fellows, to achieve a micro-credential certificate in digital project management. Thank you, Dr. Garcia Merchant. Long story short, our SIFT interns have been busy this summer, meeting the many and varied challenges placed before them. They have also demonstrated the efficacy of programs like SIFT, which builds and expands upon core humanities principles to train our students to be capable, out-of-the-box thinkers and contributors to our modern digital world. And so with that, I'd like to invite our first group of student speakers from Pharis and SIPHDH. We will begin with the Mapping Multicultural Houston Project. I'd like to invite forward Dr. Melody Yunzi Lee and her team from Mapping. Please come forward.
Chinese Studies and co-direct this project is co-directed with my colleagues, Dr. San Miguel's from History. Welcome everyone and thank you for being here today. How many of you haven't tried Chinese food in Houston? Well, no one, right? Mostly all of you have tried Chinese food. As you know, Houston has one of the largest Chinese population in the United States. So we feel like, as a Chinese immigrant myself, like I always feel like it's our mission to really project and highlight the significance of the Chinese population and the contribution of the Chinese population, like from its history. So this summer, we focus on like the mapping Chinatown, and we want to focus on the old Chinatown. Comparatively, our project is actually at the most initial stage for like compared to other projects. So we've learned a lot from the other project. We're very thrilled to be part of it, the SIPHDH, and thank you like Christina, Linda, and everyone for including us. So this summer, we started our project by like projecting and collecting data from different archives. We had some challenges, but a lot of possibilities. We started collecting data from the Public History Library, also the like Rice Wilson Research Center. We collected data first from the city directory from 1951 to 2021. Then later on, we collected a lot of individual stories, businesses, organizations from the Rice archives. So, you know, with these, like we feel that in the future, like we want to start story mapping our story with different possibilities that we are exploring. So there's a lot going on with these data and that we collected from the city directory and also making the small models. But our interns are going to introduce to you more in detail. So I present to you the two wonderful like interns this summer with our project. Ashira is from digital media, and also Pharis is from history and sociology. And really great to work with them from different backgrounds because it really gives us like a whole picture of what we could do with these like students of different academic backgrounds and like different foundations as well. We are thinking of a lot of possibilities as you will hear from them. So let's welcome.
Good morning, everyone. This summer, our team has been working on an exciting project to document the rich history of Houston's old Chinatown. Many of you here are probably familiar with the Chinatown in Bel Air. However, less people know that before it existed, there used to be a thriving Chinatown in East Downtown. Today, there are few traces of it left, and most of its history has been erased due to urbanization and other factors. Our project seeks to preserve this lost history to honor the contributions of these early Chinese immigrants to our city.
We approach this project with a commitment into social responsibility in ensuring that we are accurately and respectfully representing this community. In addition, communicating this information to the general public requires clear storytelling. Through research and data analysis, we aimed at data presentation that is both accurate and engaging. As this is a digital humanities project, we worked at the intersection of STEM and humanities to combine historical research with digital tools. This intersection of data and humanities is also present in our respective experiences, as Pharis is a history major and I'm a digital media major. Our focuses and priorities were different, so we were able to bring the best of both worlds to this project. For example, the history perspective is to create, for example, lots of documentation, such as the timeline Pharis made. But my focus is more on the graphical and design side, how we are going to integrate technology into our final product. This meant we really had to communicate our expertise to each other, but it also allowed us to, uniquely collaborate together. Now, let's take you through this comprehensive process from where we started to where we are now.
Our first stage was preliminary research about the Old Chinatown and East Downtown. We read extensively about the history of Old Chinatown, including the factors behind its decline, and took detailed notes on key individuals, businesses, and organizations that played pivotal roles in the community's development. For instance, Lang Yi, or Bobo Wu, was a Cantonese entrepreneur who funded millions of dollars into new buildings and is considered to be the founder of Old Chinatown. The Onlong Merchants Association was a mutual aid society which opened a Houston chapter and a building on Charter Street in 1951, which is that picture that you see up there. This building served as a meeting place for festivals, Chinese New Year celebrations, meetings, and more, and hosted restaurants and stores. It was vital for us to make sure that we understood the community's historical context to responsibly share their stories in an accurate and unbiased way. This preliminary research also allowed us to set a time frame spanning from Chinatown's beginnings in the 1950s to its decline in the 80s to the present. Now that we had background knowledge, we were able to move on to additional fieldwork and data collection. Because this project is in its very beginning stages, it was necessary to do a lot of planning work to figure out what was feasible to accomplish. Part of this process involved visiting present-day Old Chinatown in person to help us envision the scope of the project. We took photos of the remaining architecture and streets so we could get a physical sense of how much is left today. We also referenced a map from our readings to identify important locations like the Longsing Supermarket and used that to create our own rough map by determining the key streets and intersections, and thus establish a precise geographical framework for our study. We now had both a when and a where. This approach allowed us to decide the boundaries of the area we were studying so we could focus our efforts on the most important locations.
Our next stage was archival research to gather more in-depth and concrete data. We made several visits to the Houston History Research Center at the Houston Public Library to look at the city directory to see what residents and businesses were within the bounds of Old Chinatown within our selected years. Most years of the directory were kept as physical books, and we just took the photos for each street that we needed. But the 1950s were held on microfilm, so we had to use a microscope to read that, and that meant that the photos were often blurry and difficult to read. We had to go back to the center more times than anticipated because we would realize that we were missing information or we would add streets. But in the end, we covered data for an area 7 streets wide and 12 streets long for each decade from 1950 to 2020. We also connected with the archivists and librarians at Rice's Fondren Library to access private collections that the friends and family had donated. For example, like the Edward Chen collection or the Gordon Kwan papers. We needed to gather information on key individuals and uncover photos of Old Chinatown in order to create biographies and also to create a timeline for our project. Visiting the Woodson Research Center helps us practice clear communication with librarians and archivists as we had to request boxes from them ahead of time, and we had to ask them for guidance on how to get the information we wanted. But we also practiced communication internally within our teams as we collaborated to scan large amounts of documents and files. We later uploaded our findings to Teams folders where all of us could access the resources we had so we could work together to compile databases.
Following our visits to the archive, we moved to actual analysis. We took our information from the city directories and moved them to Excel spreadsheets where we listed the businesses and individuals per street per chosen year. So that's the spreadsheet you see on the left. Then we created another spreadsheet to record the ratio of Chinese to non-Chinese residents and businesses within Old Chinatown. So that's the one you see on the right. The purpose of this was to compare the rise and fall of the Chinese population over time, painting an overview of important demographic changes and trends. There were multiple limitations to this part of the project. For instance, we had to use subjective judgment in determining whether a business or resident was Asian, and some of the directories were unclear about where streets intersected. We tried to account for these issues by having multiple people record data and compare to see whether it was consistent. By combining our historical data with digital tools, we were able to visualize some of our findings using Tableau. So here you can see this is a comparative study of Chinese businesses on the years 1950, 1970, 1990, and 2011. We did include more years in our study, but these were we were only able to finish these years to create this graph so far. So this is, you can see compared by year, and then this you can see the distribution by street. This intersection of data, digital media, and humanities allowed us to create a comprehensive analysis and then present this complex data in a clear and accessible manner. Ultimately, it allows us to provide evidence for the growth and decline of Houston's Old Chinatown.
The fifth stage of this project was to plan ahead for eventual final product. As stated, our project is still in the initial stages, so these are plans for the future. Due to previous experience, we knew a little bit about augmented or virtual reality, and we were interested in seeing if we could do something with that, so we contacted Dr. Liao from the College of Engineering to explore the potential of using AR/VR technology for our project. During this consultation, we talked about using Matterport for 3D mapping and Polycam for artifact scanning. These tools, when used in tandem, would allow users to walk through Old Chinatown with interactive and clickable elements of historical photographs and articles. Of course, to create this eventual exhibit, we would need to acquire even more photos and elements. So this is the Longsing Supermarket, which was an extremely popular grocery/restaurant that was a staple of Old Chinatown for like 30 years. It was very, very important to Old Chinatown, not only because it was this restaurant, but before it was a restaurant, it was also a different building called Bobo Lang Theater. So this is very vital to Chinatown's history, and it's one of the only remaining bits of architecture left. So we obviously want to preserve it, and we want to create something a bit more like this. We want to create this walkable exhibit, and we want to make this we want to make it immersive and, you know, comprehensive, and we want to make sure that people can experience Old Chinatown the way it used to be. We want to make sure that you feel like you're really there. In this way, we can uniquely blend the past and present, bringing these historical narratives to life.
A major challenge of this project was the fact that we had to essentially chart a path forward. Many of the other projects that you will see later today have been established for a longer time and have more clear objectives and assignments, but we had to work from almost ground zero. We had a lot of power in the decision making, but it was also overwhelming at times because we had to create a roadmap for a project that was constantly evolving. We had to decide what we would accomplish during this internship. Furthermore, everyone had different visions for this project, and we really had to balance our desires and expectations with practical constraints. This decision-making has taught us a lot about time management, collaboration, and planning. Towards the end of this program, we faced additional setbacks, such as Hurricane Beryl, but despite these challenges, we've been continuing our research and organizing it for future use. Our project will continue to evolve beyond this internship, and our hope is that Mapping Multicultural Houston can eventually pave the way for more lasting advocacy efforts, preserving the legacy of Chinatown for future generations.
As we reflect on our journey, it's clear that our project has been shaped by a commitment to social responsibility, effective communication, and the innovative intersection of humanities and digital media. Throughout this entire process, we have strived to document and share the rich history of Old Chinatown responsibly and thoroughly. Our exploration of AR/VR technology marks an exciting, ongoing chapter in this endeavor, allowing us to present the historical narratives in an engaging and accessible way. This has been a deeply rewarding experience, and the initiation of this project would not have been nearly successful without a number of people. Firstly, our sincerest thanks to our professors, Dr. Lee, Dr. San Miguel, for their support and guidance throughout. Their expertise and encouragement have been key to shaping our research. We also really want to thank the other contributors and collaborators, Elizabeth, Daniel, Allison, Gabby, and Mary, for their time and dedication and energy to working with us. It's been really lovely to work on this with all of you. Thank you.
All right, I'd like to now invite up Dr. Yanni I'm so sorry. Dr. Yanni and the Pharis team that will be presenting on Texas at a Crossroads, Justice, Libraries, and Community Health.
Thank you so much, Dr. Neuhauser. Let's see. Yeah, that works. This is my team, quote unquote. So I will say, I hesitate to speak like this in a setting where actual historians are present, but as an amateur historian, one thing I've learned is that often the best thing we can do as the old guard for science to progress is to know when to step aside and let the younger researchers be the main event. So I will be sure to do that and step aside as soon as I can. I did ask for our students our researchers, to tell me one thing that they think you should know about them in addition to what you can study on the program, what you can find out on the program about them. So I will introduce them with just that one little piece of information, and then I will let them really tell you all about what motivated them throughout the summer. This is a full-time commitment that these researchers did, and you really have to care deeply about your project if you're going to spend all this effort, if you're going to do all this work in a research project that you So the thing about it is, like, I want to double up on what Andrew said. We do not offer the Pharis Fellowship because we are looking for research assistants. The Pharis Fellowship is there because we're looking for the leaders of the research projects of tomorrow. And so those of us who have been doing research for a while recognize that it is an incredibly rewarding but also challenging task to balance this sort of drive with the doubt that comes with actually doing research. It's not about solving a problem where you can always rest assured that, oh, a solution exists, let alone is in the back of the book, right? So I want to recognize the incredible character that these researchers showed throughout the summer in pushing forward these projects. Come hell, Houston in the summer is pretty close in temperature. And high water, we've had burial, we all remember that. So I'd like to give them a first round of applause before they present. and then I will, as promised, step aside. So our first presenter is Joy Hernandez from Public Health. And Joy wanted me to let you know that his favorite tree is the ponderosa pine. So, Joy?
Thank you, Yanni. The tree thing is a Pharis joke. The Pharis people will understand it. But anyways, thank you, Yanni. Hi, everyone. My name is Joey Hernandez. I'm a rising sophomore public health major here. And it's crazy to think that the summer's already coming to an end, but I've had a great experience as a Pharis Fellow, and I'm excited to share my project with all you guys, titled Beyond the Lockdown, COVID-19's Transformation of Houston's Community Hubs. All right, so when I was brainstorming project ideas, I knew I wanted to research something that wasn't just gonna be universally impactful, but also relatable to everyone. And naturally, the global pandemic came to mind because, let's be real, it's affected each and every one of us in one way or another. So, yeah, so that shared experience kind of sparked my curiosity about how the pandemic has really reshaped our communities, and with that, particularly the spaces specifically designed to bring us together. These spaces, which are known as community hubs, are vital for fostering social cohesion. And there's so much more than just another building on the block. I mean, these are the places where we socialize, interact, build meaningful connections and relationships with other members of our community. Just think of your local YMCA or your faith-based center, or maybe even this church that we're in right now. Research shows that these are the type of places that play a significant role in promoting mental health, reducing social isolation, and just enhancing our overall community well-being. And obviously during the pandemic, many of these hubs had to close their doors, which led to significant reductions and disruptions in social interactions. So essentially for my project, I analyzed pre and post-pandemic data on community hubs in Houston. I used community infrastructure or keyword-specific community hubs in Harris County as a proxy to estimate the degree of social cohesion in various neighborhoods. And specifically, I looked at the quality and quantity of these hubs both before and after the pandemic. And I also examined socioeconomic demographics like median household income to further analyze those correlations between these changes and economic status. But through my research, I've gained a deeper appreciation for the importance that these community hubs play in just maintaining social ties and supporting well-being. And as we move forward, I just hope that my work can contribute to the ongoing efforts to strengthen and revitalize these essential community spaces as we continue to navigate this post-pandemic world. And with that being said, I'll pass it on over to Bruce.
So, before you do that, thank you. So, Rosemary's fact for all of you to share is that, is my favorite fact, is that not only has she become an expert in using the R programming language for her projects, but she actually has favorite packages within it. So, give it up for Digital 2 and Packard, and Rosemary led.
So we we're having problems with the mic, so we can project for a while. Sorry.
So what if I told you that there's a place where you could get free garden seeds, free research excursions, this kind of museum tickets, or even a consumption class? The hint is in the title. It's very local public library. And so if you haven't been to local public libraries in the past year, I highly recommend going. Libraries have transformed open from their initial purpose as providers of information and books to serving as pivotal community anchors. And so I think this comes at a really important time when social services are on the decline and there's a lot of barriers to access, especially in Texas. And so libraries have been stepping in and filling in that role as what I call local trusted entry points. Local trusted entry points are organizations that connect social services and healthcare providers to different patrons. And so with libraries being one of the last, or maybe one of the few institutions that offer resources for free to truly everyone, it's no surprise that they are one of the best places to be that local trusted entry point. And so, however, libraries have been facing like many difficulties lately, especially regarding funding cuts, as well as political, targeting. And so, libraries do not have the institutional support that they need to provide for the communities, especially in Texas, according to the Institute of Museum and Library Services. And so what I hope my project does is highlight the importance of the libraries in these communities, especially to politicians, as well as to researchers, and most importantly, the greater community, and illustrate that there's a resource out there for everyone and for you. And so what my project hopes to do, if you could fit. So what I will essentially do is look at resource allocation both statewide and within Houston libraries and see how libraries respond to their communities. And so if you want a explanation of this graph or you want to see the results, then you'll have to come tomorrow at 9:30 a.m. to the symposium. But otherwise, I really want to stress the importance that libraries play in their communities, and I hope that becomes
let's see if I can project without a microphone. The last member of our research team is David Odejimi, and his favorite tree is the coconut tree. And he will talk about the impact of high imprisonment numbers and tough sentences for nonviolent crimes on racial bias within the criminal justice system of Harris County. I promised myself that I would say that in one breath, and I could. David?
Hello everyone, my name is David Odejimi. I'm a rising senior. I'm a computer science major and also a minor in data and society. My project is pretty much just addressing and understanding like racial disparities in Harris County in the criminal justice system. Pretty much my project overview, the reason why I picked Harris County because Harris County is probably one of the populous counties in Texas, with a population of about 4+ million people. And overall, like thinking about it, when I was looking at the project, I wanted to find about I want to like look forward to find like nonviolent offenses and how like it contributes like extreme sentences, especially in the, like racial disparities. And as you can see in the diagram next, it's pretty much what I did was an alluvial diagram, basically talking about racial disparities and offensive types and sentence length. So pretty much this diagram is just to like effectively illustrate like this intricate like relationship between like race and offensive types and the sentences in Harris County criminal justice system, emphasizing like the need to consider both offensive types and also sentence length to tackle like racial disparities and overrepresentation in Harris County. As you can see, the black individual is kind of has the most thickest like group because when I viewed it to violent and nonviolent to compare both of them, it already shows that, as you can see, and for the violent, the black individual is the highest, and also for nonviolence, also the black individual is the highest. And also, as you can see, in the nonviolent also, there are sentences where they were given high extremist sentences like life, 45+, and that's for nonviolent offenses. So my research project is just to look forward to that and just see if there could be policy change and see if the timeline of how the issues changed from maybe from 1980s to 2022 or 2023. So, and that's my project. And hopefully you guys can see more an interesting fact coming tomorrow, as Rosemary said. And I just wanted to bring up the question to talk about how the Pharis program and the Pharis Fellowship helped my group, and pretty much thinking of working with data and also data science. Overall, for me, I would say data. When I think of data, I just think of like numbers, stats, analysis, doing some type of regression model analysis or something like that. But working with Pharis and working with my other fellows, data is really about storytelling. And if you really think about it, it just has the ability to just tell a story in your data. And if you could have a possibility to make informed decisions. And that's what data science talks about. And also giving the possibility to communicate technical issues to non-technical people. And that's when I think about how data science contributes to me and how Pharis Fellow was wonderful in helping me to understand that possibility. So I'll pass it on to Joey to talk about his experience.
Yeah, I agree completely with what David said. Yeah, Pharis has definitely ignited a lot of new interests and curiosities in the field of data science for me too. This is my first official research experience like ever, let alone my first time working with data science and all these fancy techniques. And aside from using HTML this one time, I made this like cat website in like a day. Yeah, I had no prior experience in data science, so I guess I used to see it as just a field that was highly technical, crunching numbers, a lot of that like fancy technical stuff, and it was just out of reach for someone like me. But as I dug into the nitty-gritty of my project over the course of this summer, I realized that data science is not just about these complex algorithms and coding. It's about uncovering the stories, like David said, and the patterns that can in turn drive meaningful change, in this case in our communities. Sure, that Excel document might have hundreds or even thousands of rows of numbers and data to sort through, but I think it's important to realize that behind each and every one of those numbers is a person with a story and a community as well. So this program has showed me that data science is accessible and it is impactful. It transformed my perception of the field, and it continues to inspire me to utilize it going forward as a means to contribute to societal well-being and equality going forward.
So I have to concur with what David and Joey said. I think this Pharis Fellowship has been really unique. I've done a lot of other research experiences in the past, and in those experiences, my data when I started data analysis, it's more like a means to an end. It was just a tool or something, a step that I wanted to get through as fast as possible to get the results and be done with. But through the Pharis Fellowship, I think I've realized that as a researcher, as a data scientist, you have a lot of agency and therefore a lot of responsibility in each step of the process. And so I think as I step forward as hopefully a future researcher, I hope to make decisions that take into account communities and their lived experiences and create research that's impactful and has a positive impact on everyone's well-being. And so I think we have, on behalf of the panel, we would like to thank our mentors, our Pharis Fellows, and then everyone here for listening to us. And of course, we invite you guys tomorrow for our symposium, but otherwise, thank you.
Thank you so much. And now for our third panel for this, this final first section to wrap us up, I'd like to invite the team up for the Morales Family Collection from U.S. Latino Digital Humanities Center. Please join me in welcoming Mika Sully.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Micaela Sully. I am an archivist and program manager at Arte Público Press, right here at the University of Houston. Arte Público is a Latino publishing house and is home to Recovering the U.S. Hispanic Literary Heritage, which is our research and archival division. And we are home to the U.S. Latino Digital Humanities Center. And we've been in Houston for over 30 years, preserving histories while training students in this work. And every semester we are so impressed with our students, and this summer has been really wonderful to work with the three students that you're going to hear from today. This summer, our interns worked on the Morales Family and Funeral Home collections, which have direct ties to the neighborhood just next door to this campus. In 1930, Felix and Angelina Morales established the Morales Funeral Home on Canal Street in Houston's 2nd Ward. This was in direct response to the segregation that existed within city ambulance, funeral, and burial services for Mexicans and Mexican Americans and other minorities in Houston. The Moraleses also established a notary service and a mutual aid society. And in 1950, the Moraleses opened the first Spanish-language radio station along the Gulf Coast. The funeral home is still operating today on Canal Street under the direction of Felix and Angelina's granddaughter, which is State Representative Cristina Morales, who was going to be here today, but unfortunately wasn't able to make it. But we thank her so much for all of her work to work with us to preserve this family history. The conversation with the Morales family has been taking place over the last few years. And so this is phase 1 of our collaboration with the Memorial Foundation. The collection includes a scrapbook, a family Bible, and some of their earliest funeral home records. We have box 1 of an anticipated 100 more boxes to come our way, and so we're really excited to take this summer to begin the work on this collection. And we knew this was the perfect project for our undergraduate summer interns, Mónica Jimenez, Yadira Hermosillo, and Natalia Siboldi. Mónica is majoring in anthropology with a double minor in medicine and society and sociology. Yadira is majoring in sociology with a minor in women's studies, and Natalia is majoring in history with a minor in Spanish. Their work to produce 3 digital access points for this collection has really helped advance the U.S. Latino Digital Humanities Center goal of not only making these accessible, but putting them into context to aid in further research on this family and their legacy. I will now give the floor to our incredible students, Mónica, Yadira, and Natalia.
My name is Monica Jimenez, and as part of the team working on the Morales collection, it was my task to produce a digital timeline of the Morales family legacy. And this includes 15 slides of archival records. You could scan the QR code to hear and learn about the Morales family. And these archival records are black and white photographs, newspaper clippings, personal and public records. And this process of figuring out what I want to use, it really was like being a detective, sifting through information, trying to figure out what is accurate in these archives to present and reflect the Morales family. As part of the internship, there was a training, micro-credential training, as you heard earlier, that really taught me the background and ins and outs of archival work and public history, things as the elements that you use, visualizations, and how to use descriptions to present this work to an audience. Along with the team, the USLDH team, they really guided me with tools and like effective search terms to use, which databases to use, and how to compare information to the archives that I'm working in. With this, I was able to really have effective research methods to create a digital timeline using the technology the JS timeline, which is through MindLab. And this presented a timeline that captured key moments for the Morales family using just really specific information and language to describe what was going on at the time of the Great Depression through segregation, and the building still stands today. So this is important context in helping me learn how important archival is and the metadata that goes with it. Otherwise, it's just material.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Yadira Hermosillo. I was tasked with continuing the digitization of Box 1 of the Morales funeral home records, which contain death records with last names A through C from 1931 to 1950. I essentially converted these physical files into digital ones through two main processes. First was the scanning of the documents. I learned about the preservation practices necessary for archival work, including how to handle that delicate material and how to use the high-quality scanner. Second was the creation of metadata, which in simplest terms is just data about data. This was all about standardizing the information from those records. I had a lot of conversations with USLDH to create protocols as I came across abbreviations, misspellings, and even unfinished wording. This really taught me about the importance of organizing data in general, as it allows for an easier analysis of information. And from this work, I created an interactive digital map on StoryMap.js, including the Morales funeral home locations, 3 cemeteries, and highlighting some patterns of death I discovered from the 200 documents that I scanned. If you scan the QR code, it will take you to the first phase of the map. Although I worked with really grim material, it was amazing to uncover these stories and patterns that likely would not have been known through other sources. I especially loved seeing the progression of how the Morales filled out those records from first writing them onto folders to eventually printing out those death certificates onto those same folders.
Hi, I'm Natalia Saboldi, and I've been working on the Morales Family Bible, which belonged to Angelina Morales. The Morales family has saved a lot of items in that Bible dating back to as far as the 1950s. And these items include obituaries, newspaper clippings, event napkins, and prayer cards. And so my work has been digitizing the Bible, scanning all of these items, and creating the metadata for them, and also writing descriptions for each item in English and Spanish. And now that the metadata is done, it's currently being uploaded to the USLDH Omeka site, where the Morales Bible will have its own space very soon. I also created a flipbook of the Bible, and there's a QR code if you're interested. I used the website Hazing, and I did this for the first time, and I was able to create a 285-page flipbook. And an interactive version will be coming soon when the Omeka site is ready, and you'll be able to click on the item to pop up its respective page on Omeka.
So when I reflect reflect back on this project, I think about the social responsibility to share knowledge to all publics so that everyone can participate in the social spaces together. And what public history projects like this does is create visibility to communities that have been left out of American history, and it preserves record of these ethnic and cultural communities. And what this continues to do is really give understanding of cultural differences, allows equitable opportunities, and fights the narrative, false narratives of people like Mexican Americans that we're working on in this collection, immigrants. And the Morales family really took on that challenge during this time of the Great Depression because they created an established funeral home business, and they provided funerary and ambulatory services to all of Houston community. On top of that, they established a KVL radio, La Voz Latina, to all, really all the community, but for the first Spanish-speaking radio station of its time. So when I think about this, the Morales family really represents a family that took on the challenge for all the people and to build community and gave a space where there wasn't one at this time. So thinking about that, I really connect back to the people and the place because I was born and raised here in East End downtown. And seeing the building, I know it's been there a long time, but for me, learning their history, seeing the collection come together, it really is, it's a realization and a knowledge that I didn't have before, and I can really understand my own family's history through working in this collection.
So during this program, I learned a lot about the importance of reaching your audience, and so I thought a lot about how people would interact with the Bible, and so I wanted something that could communicate the full significance of the Bible, which led me to visualization and interactivity through the flipbook. I wanted to emulate the physical experience I had working on the Bible as best as I could, and I also wanted to make it more accessible for those who might not understand metadata, like how I didn't know what it was 10 weeks ago. And so the Bible makes it easier for the general public to engage with and understand and enjoy. And I also think that the language availability of both English and Spanish also provides further accessibility. And finally, I hope that the Bible effectively communicates the message that anything can be an archive. Just like how I was moved to find my grandma's collections after working on the Bible, I hope that the audience can experience something similar and realize that our stories are important, and just because they aren't already preserved or shared doesn't mean that they can't be, especially the unsung stories of minorities today.
So most people think the humanities and STEM are on complete opposite sides of the academic spectrum, yet really they are linked together. Data, digital methods, and the humanities all work together to produce compelling and engaging stories for public audiences. And in our case, we had access to the raw data, that being the funeral records, the Bible, and the family scrapbook, which we then translated into standardized metadata to make the collection's material discoverable and easier to use. However, metadata is not an easy read, so we took things further and created public-facing projects using Omeka, StoryMap.js, and Timeline.js for anyone to view and learn about the legacy of the Morales family and their contributions to Houston's Hispanic community. Thank you for joining us today, and we hope you enjoy the Morales family collection.
Thank you to everyone for our first round of presenters. We're going to take a short break. There's plenty of I was going to say liquids, beverages, and food in the back. And then when we return in a couple of minutes, we're going to have Dr. Claudia Neuhauser start off our second group of panelists. All right, thank you, everyone. All right, everyone, we're going to get going again for round 2. So if you can grab your snacks and come on over. It is my great joy to introduce somebody who saw the vision for this and has made it happen. And this is our Vice President, Vice Chancellor for Research, Dr. Claudia Neuhauser. Please join me in welcoming.
Thank you. I would like to welcome you all. I actually have a dual role, so I'm VP for Research, and I'm also the director of the HPE Data Science Institute. And so I became that a few years ago, the director part of it. The VP for research is just a month ago. And one of the first things we did was we need to get digital humanities established as a field here, well supported through the Data Science Institute and the libraries. So the libraries and we got together and started it and started to fund it, including a core facility, which is pretty much unheard for in the humanities that you have core facilities. We usually build like microscopes and that kind of stuff. But I believe strongly that if you have a field that needs infrastructure, you need a core facility that's centrally supported. So we have that now. We have a director of it, and it's running, and it's running really, really well, as you just saw with the first presentation. For me, that's a field that's really important. And it's important because we're all humans, and we live in a world where we tend to forget that. We live in a digital world, but that's quite often doesn't include the humanities. And so for me, giving students and researchers the opportunity to get together, talk about these histories, where we just saw the Morales funeral home, there was a fantastic presentation. That really sort of shows what the digital humanities can do, unearthing histories that would be forgotten otherwise, and giving people a chance to really tell their story from their perspective with the communities. And with this, I also want to thank the parents who are here. I heard there are some parents here, so it's really great to see you as well. I don't know exactly who is a parent, who is not, but it doesn't matter. But it's great that you come and support your children. They did some great research here. And so I want to keep this short because you're going to see way better presentations with the next few. So I want to hand it back to you, and welcome again, and enjoy the presentations.
Thank you, Dr. Newhauser. Well, it's my pleasure as the first group and part of the second cohort to introduce Dr. Peggy Lidner, my colleague on the Sirios project. And please, Sirios interns, come on up.
Thank you and welcome, everyone. I'm an assistant professor in the Information Technology Science Department, and it's my pleasure today to introduce the three Sirios interns. This project originally was conceived by historian Christina Newman as a companion for her book, Antioch in Syria, A History from Coins. But it is now a collaborative effort joining faculty and students from multiple departments in the College of Liberal Arts and Social Sciences and, believe it or not, engineering, to bring back the vibrant history of the people of the ancient city of Antioch in digital format. Together with Dr. Rodwell, who cannot be here today, a UX researcher, we have been building the NEH-funded Sirios web presence since 2019. As an information scientist, I often concentrate on technicalities of data representation to allow for fast and accurate analysis. But this summer internship really forced me to think about the meaning and practical implications of information recontextualization. Throughout the whole summer, we have seen our students engage deeply with the intersectional nature of finding a shared language and visuals to present a historical project, and in our case, actually to present the process of creating and curating digital information about coins for a broader public audience. They were at times confused and felt lost while climbing up a steep hill. However, each used their strengths and they became a team to create an explainer video that will soon accompany the Sirios website. So we witnessed how they engaged with the background research, the writing, and video production by working closely together. Ultimately, they really created something that none of us faculty could have done on their own. They really exceeded our expectations for what could be achieved in a short 10-week summer internship. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce Alexandra Crosby, a rising junior in anthropology, who revealed her leadership capacity with tenacity and compassion. Maxine Cabiquez, a senior in the digital media program, who showed us how to turn ideas into truly professional visuals. And Miriam Eldeshabi, a third-year student in the digital media program, who taught us all how to flip a coin in PowerPoint and reminded us how patience and compassion can get it all done. Please.
Good morning, everyone. In this presentation, we will discuss the importance of preserving Syrian cultural heritage through the Syrius Project, the impact of modern technology on historical research, and our experiences as interns. Syria has been facing a civil war and is experiencing the erasure of its culture and heritage due to the deaths of Syrians and the destruction of cultural heritage, which resulted in the loss of traditions, stories, and knowledge. Preserving Syrian history and making it accessible ensures future generations can learn from and appreciate their rich heritage, fostering a sense of belonging and social cohesion. Syrios brings the story of ancient Syria to modern audiences through a study of coins. It also represents an ongoing experiment that combines historical data, user experience research, and web technology. This website shows that lost histories of the past can be recovered through everyday objects and also offers various resources to help the general public understand the coins' past and present history. As interns, our final project was to create a video for a diverse audience that answers the question, how does an ancient coin from Syria become digital data for historical research? The goal was to explain the research process in simple terms so an 8th grader could easily understand it. Our job was to simplify a very complex process of historical and digital research. This internship was divided into 2 parts. The first part involved research, discussions, and collaborative storyboards, with each prompt aimed at helping the public better understand the importance of preserving ancient coins and the process of doing so. The second part consisted of implementing the ideas created throughout the first half into a professional video for a public audience. The goddess Tuke, who is depicted on the coin on the right, is the narrator for our video. Since she is a very busy goddess, we are currently still working on the video, so we are sadly unable to show it to everyone. If you'd like to see it in the future, scan the QR code and bookmark the website so you can hopefully see it soon.
As a digital media student, this summer internship gave me the opportunity to learn so much about Syrian history. As you may know, there is an ongoing war happening in Syria. For a little overview, in 2011, inspired by the uprisings in Egypt and Tunis, pro-democracy Syrian activists began to protest against the government. However, it went downhill after Syrian boys were arrested and tortured for standing up against the government. President Bashar al-Assad still leads the Syrian government, which gives him the power to kill or imprison any protester that opposes him. Along with the loss of human life, hundreds of ancient sites in Syria are now looted or destroyed. This chaos has made it a gold mine for looters who are now plundering priceless artifacts. With so little regulation and order, smuggling these treasures, both digitally and physically, has become a breeze. Here's where Syrius comes in, like a digital superhero for Syrian cultural heritage. The website focuses on ancient coins by offering a detailed digital catalog exhibit and historical context for these artifacts. Syrius helps preserve and share information about these coins through digital means. This ensures that even if physical coins are lost or ruined, their historical significance is accessible to researchers and the public audience. It's important to approach preservation with respect for the people whose history is being documented. Therefore, obtaining permission to utilize and share these artifacts is necessary. This includes working with local authorities to meet all legal and ethical standards. As researcher assistants involved in data humanism, we have had the opportunity to contribute to these conservation efforts. We have gained hands-on experience with digital tools such as CleoVis, a digital timeline program to visualize historical data. We have conducted historical research on ancient Syria, built an understanding of the historical significance of coins and gained knowledge of their features. Lastly, another important aspect of our roles involves collaborating to raise awareness about the significance of preserving Syrian heritage. This project is a tribute to the enduring legacy of Syria's rich cultural past and a step towards ensuring its culture is honored and remembered.
Antiquity may seem obscure to some, but modern technology gives us the ability to bring this distant past back to life. We can see tiny details on coins better with 3D scanning technology than if we were squinting at a physical coin from behind a museum display case. We can get a better understanding of the coin's context and history when it is placed on a timeline or on a map. This is called recontextualization, where we transform coins from isolated artifacts into a story about objects that moved, existed in a time, a place, and were used by communities of people. By digitizing coins and placing them in an interactive online exhibit, and by telling stories with engaging visualizations, we can connect their historical and cultural significance to modern audiences. Our job this summer was to break down this complex process, and it has been no easy feat. It took the three of us almost 10 weeks to get a grasp on the very basics of the regional history, the role metadata plays in giving a full account of an artifact, data entry, 3D scanning, what the heck recontextualization means, the benefits of digital mapping and timelines, and how to use all of this information to tell an engaging story about an ancient coin. It was physicist Richard Feynman who said, if you can't explain something in simple terms, you don't understand it. So in keeping with that fact, as a group we made individual storyboards each week, then came together to combine our ideas into one collective storyboard using relevant visuals and simple language to address a unique prompt. This is the first storyboard I created during the internship regarding how a historian would handle and explore a physical coin from ancient Syria. Through our weekly storyboards, we not only practiced effective interpersonal communication within the project, where we invited constructive criticism and an open dialogue, but we learned more about how to communicate to a particular audience on a topic they may not be familiar with. Drawing on the strengths of 3 different minds, 2 digital media majors, and me, an anthropology major, has proven to be especially beneficial when working together to create our video animation for the Syrios website. Having diverse minds in the digital humanities is crucial, as it allows for a broader historical interpretation and enhanced technological integration, which is the goal of the SIPHDH internship, to bridge the gap between STEM and the humanities. As this being my first research internship, and as a student more familiar with the humanities and the social sciences, I initially felt uneasy about working with technology, maybe not as uneasy as my grandmother would be, but I hadn't realized just what a wonderful tool it is to aid in not just data organization, but to facilitate the tradition of storytelling that human beings have always done. I can now honestly say that I am a little less afraid of the power of technology.
The Syrios project is more than a digital catalog of ancient Syrian coins. Not only can technology be used to aid in our efforts to preserve the disappearing heritage of a country in crisis, but it enables a deeper analysis of cultural and historical phenomena and facilitates both education and a more insightful public dialogue. This internship was an amazing opportunity to learn about and help an underrepresented culture, allowing me to develop skills in educating others about the importance of preserving history.
Syrios' emphasis on accurate historical representation and ethical documentation ensures that these artifacts serve as reliable guides for learning, understanding, and preventing misrepresentations. I, for one, had the opportunity to learn more about Syrian history and have gained research skills that will be useful for my future.
By sharing the story that these coins tell, we can bring people together to create a sense of unity and understanding that future generations can build upon. It is important to represent people from different countries who share a common thread through time, but I've realized this summer that it's equally important for people to understand that this is not just the history of a country or tribe or group. It is part of the history of the world and of human beings, and is a history worth telling. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. And now I'd like to invite up Dr. Andrew Capperell, the Director of Engaged Data Science for the Local Policy and the Environment Pharis crew.
All right, thank you. All right, you guys. While they're walking up, I'll talk a little bit about the origins for these projects. The Local Policy and the Environment projects grew out of a presentation from the Environmental Protection Agency that launched these folks on a set of journeys that took them in a variety of directions, whether it's sifting through the websites of municipal waste departments in Harris County and the surrounding counties, or transferring and extracting voting data from 6,000-page PDF files, or fighting with Excel lookup functions to resolve an index for urban agriculture. These students have been working all summer to understand how local policy in Harris County and the surrounding areas intersects with the lived experience for people in the community with respect to environmental resources. So with that, I'll go ahead and introduce our first speaker. From Vacant to Vibrant, Suitability Testing and Estimating Impacts of Vacant Plots for Potential Urban Agriculture in Harris County. Rex Kidd, a sociology major here and a member of the Honors College.
Thank you, Andrew. So, as he said, my project is about urban agriculture and using vacant plots here in Harris County. So, to do that, basically, I needed to create an index because the suitability of urban agriculture is based on a couple of factors, which I have listed up there. These factors allow me to evaluate and project the possible spatial distribution of urban agriculture because urban agriculture has a multitude of co-benefits for the environment, for communities, and your health. The spatial distribution of that really does matter because that basically decides who benefits from that developed urban agriculture. So creating the suitability index allows to avoid some structural inequalities and racism in terms of the implementation and development of urban agriculture. Thus, hopefully, using this index, I will have a grasp on understanding the qualitative and quantitative impacts going into urban agriculture and being able to calculate the nutritional, environmental, and community impacts of transforming these vacant lands into safe and productive green spaces for local communities. So my findings will hopefully be utilized to implement effective urban agriculture systems and hopefully will address the environmental racism, health disparities, and just build overall community resilience here in Harris County. Or should I talk about Harris? So yeah, I was able to appreciate the Pharis Fellowship experience, whether that was just bouncing ideas off of my fellows within this fellowship, or whether that was from the faculty themselves. I know in the data world, it's not very accessible. As someone that has a visual impairment, sometimes the data sheets and other things like that weren't very accessible, but faculty made it very made a very good effort to try to allow that and allow accommodations for me in that space. So I could really appreciate that coming from the faculty and just also general help from the fellows. So yeah, really appreciate the experience and love the opportunity. So I'll now pass it on to.
Thanks, Rex. So I'd like to next introduce Morgan Turner, a pre-business major, and to introduce her project towards environmental equity, investigating socioeconomic disparities and access to recycling services.
Oh. Thank you, Andrew, and good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming. So everyone knows the saying, reduce, reuse, recycle, but does this saying apply to everyone? The short answer is no. My project was focused on exploring the relationship between socioeconomic factors and recycling availability. So on the graph on the left, the green areas represent places where recycling is available curbside weekly, and the red areas, they're kind of dark on the screen, but they represent areas where recycling is not offered to the residents there. And the dots, the black dots represent higher incomes, and the white dots represent lower incomes. And there appears to be a correlation between income and recycling accessibility. As you can see, most of the black dots are concentrated in areas where recycling is available weekly, whereas the contrary is true because most of the white dots are located in areas where recycling is not offered to their residents. And on the second graph, on the right, the same like variable of income is showed with the black and white, and the yellow dots represent recycling centers, and the purple dots represent landfills. And it kind of shows a different side of the story where you can see the black areas, they have very few recycling centers in them, whereas like you can see on the other graph, recycling is available in those areas. So it's interesting how these facilities are always like located outside of those areas. So it's insights like these that cause us to rethink how we allocate our public resources and services. For recycling to realize its full potential, it should be accessible to all communities, regardless of their economic situation. By identifying these discrepancies, we can make informed policy decisions that can make sustainability inclusive for everyone. Thank you.
And finally, I'd like to introduce Rita Sheikh, a recent graduate from the University of Houston in political science, and her project, Power, Pollution, and Politics, Insights into the Electoral Behavior of Harris County's fence line communities.
Thank you, Andrew. Okay, so just a little background. Local policy obviously has a huge impact on public health, and so how we implement different land use policies, budgets, and other local provisions shapes the community experience with health. And so voting for the public is a very important resource to use to advocate for themselves regarding these issues. And so with that in mind, my project begins the process of mapping the electoral behavior of fence line communities, different neighborhoods that are in close proximity to industrial facilities that causes a lot of environmental hazards and different negative health impacts. So, and then also like looking at that in regards to environmental policy. And so looking at my map, you can see that like there's a lot of different facilities, and they're pretty spread out around Houston or Harris County, except that they're clustered in various areas. There's also like the density of them is also very apparent, like which neighborhoods they are in. And so there's over 130 facilities in Houston. However, like the distribution is pretty disproportionate. And then so looking at the percent turnout just for like this one visualization, you can see that it's quite varied. However, it's quite low within the precincts that are around like these facilities. So that is something that needs like further research into. And then that's basically it. So going into like my experience with Pharis, I learned a lot that like research is a huge like collaborative work. As also another thing is that like data research can be used as a tool of like advocacy. And so it like provides a avenue and platform to understand and discuss like the intersectionality of different social issues and how like we as researchers can use different like data science and like analytical skills to be able to advocate for these things, and then also keep in mind different like the community experience and make sure that's at the top. Thank you.
Sorry, I forgot to reflect on my experience. So I really enjoyed the Pharis Fellowship. This was my very first research experience, and I was going into it expecting like data to be all about just crunching numbers and, you know, as my other fellows said, like it is really about storytelling, and it's more than just numbers. It's about how you apply it to the people in the community around. So I want to thank my mentors and my other fellows for making this such an enriching summer for me, and thank you.
I don't know about you all, but I'm kind of blown away. I think our world is in a good place if these are the folks that are graduating. All right, I would like to now invite our third group of speakers, Houston History Magazine, and the editor-in-chief of this publication, Dr. Debbie Harwell.
Thank you. So thank you all for being here and coming out and supporting our students. For over 20 years, the Houston History Magazine has documented the rich history and culture of our region, and we've also served as a training ground for our students who are interested in careers in the public humanities. So this summer, working as an editorial board, our summer students prepared the fall magazine for publication. And that magazine is on the intertwining histories of Harrisburg, which is turning 200, and Milby High School, which is turning 100. So their work included research, it included locating and choosing photographs. It also included writing and editing for a public audience, which is oftentimes really different from what we do at the university. The summer program offered the students an opportunity to come from different disciplines and bring their skill set to the magazine. And as a result of that, we all learn from one another, and it really enriches the final project, which I think is going to shine when it comes out in December. So you can look for that. I also want to introduce our three interns. Braden Dodson, who's here in the middle. Braden is a senior majoring in political science with a minor in history, and he had interned with Councilmember Joaquin Martinez, who represents the East End, which is where Harrisburg and Milby are located. And so Braden was really able to effectively bring that experience to bear on the articles that he worked on. Cindy Rivas Alfaro is a senior journalism major with a minor in women's studies and from Nices. On Cindy's application, she wrote, "Houston has done so much for me, I'd like to give something back." And I'd like to say that she definitely did that. She accomplished that goal. Cameron Wright, here on the, your right, there we go, spelled differently. Cameron Wright is a history major with a minor in anthropology and a U.S. Army veteran. And I'd like to say about Cameron, he's a really able researcher and an editor. He's relatively new to Houston, but after studying our history all summer, he could just about pass for a native now. So I want to congratulate all of you for your hard work, and let them take it away. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. We are Houston History Magazine, and this summer, like Dr. Harwell said, we worked on putting together a series of articles for the bicentennial of Harrisburg and the centennial for Milby High School. So I think the number one thing about working with Houston History Magazine is that we were all working on 2 to 3 different stories at the same time, which required a lot of communication on our part. So each story focuses on Harrisburg or Milby, and each article took a microscopic lens and zeroed in on a niche topic like teen trends at Milby, the success of the athletics teams, the unique alumni organizations, and so on and so forth. Our job as part of the summer editorial board was to make sure we weren't just repeating the same facts, quotes, or even images. The topics were related, yes, but we wanted to be able to showcase the diversity in these stories and the history behind them, as well as make sure we were using the best quotes, best images for the best story. That's why each week our meetings consisted of sharing any updates on our articles, any doubts or questions that we had, And then towards the end, when we were choosing pictures, even swapping photos between articles because we found that one image fitted better for another story. Now, with working on a magazine, I would say that a lot of it is very subjective work. As a writer myself, I believe that a story can always be improved. But in this case, we were all working toward the same goal of writing to a public audience, which I feel has been prevalent not only in this project, but the entire internship as well. Because the unique part about Houston History Magazine is that it's going out to the general public. And it was important that we looked at it through a very down-to-earth, accessible lens. We want this history to be known by as many people as possible, which means the writing needed to reflect that. So this meant explaining things that people might not understand, going deeper into the why, hows, when, wheres, all the 6 W's. This also meant removing some things because our explanations got a little too long and we had a word count to meet. The pictures also played a big part because people love pictures. I'm a visual learner myself, and if there's a big chunk of text spread out onto pages, the pictures are what I'm going to be looking at first. So all of this is to say that not only did we have to work together as a group to make sure that our articles were as cohesive as possible, we also had to turn into readers ourselves and determine what was the best way to showcase them. Now, I'll pass it over to Braden, who will explain a little bit more about preserving the history.
Hi everyone, my name is Braden. So I guess I want to start off with a little question for y'all. Who has actually heard of Harrisburg? Okay, good portion of y'all, better than I thought. So for those who don't know, it is a community located in the greater east end of Houston at approximately the intersection of Highway 225 and Loop 610-ish, also where Brays Bayou meets Buffalo Bayou. And that area of Houston effectively founded what we now know to be Houston, and with the help of Charles Milby, basically created the economic engine for the city with the Houston Ship Channel. So this area of town contains vibrant communities that garner a lot of pride and joy with the residents of the community. And Milby High School, who we focus heavily on, is like the focal point of that community with a lot of alumni pride for the school and all of that. And for us here at the Houston History Magazine and the Center for Public History as a whole, we ensure that we understand the context of how we understand the present effectively, and to loosely quote and reference Vice President Harris, we exist in the context of all in which we live and what came before us. And I do think that can, even though it was applied in the sense that she had mentioned, it's important for us as well, because if we don't understand how we got here, then we really don't know what happened. Furthermore, it's important to our work as well that we don't speak over people, that we uplift their stories, especially for history that might not be widely known, and just to ensure that they feel respected and uplifted. Because a lot of the people that we have referenced in this issue are people who grew up in the greater East End and Harrisburg and even went to Milby as well, and we rely on them heavily to share their experiences and expertise with us so that we can share that story to a broader audience for people who may not know about the area. So I guess just like kind of the thesis of that is just ensuring that stories are shared and not told. And then finally, we just want to be culturally and historically aware of the situation, and ensure that we're doing, I guess, giving care to the facts at hand, to ensure that we're not misrepresenting anything, and yeah, just to make sure we're not not doing anything justice. Because even in this article as well, we write about some sensitive topics like desegregation, and we also have a duty to share like the uncomfortable truths that come with that, about how sometimes things took longer than we even anticipated, or we're still suffering from the stains of Jim Crow and all of that. And just finally, to wrap up my speech, we just strive to share history in a way that shows respect and honor and pride and joy to the community being discussed. And I think that goes for us here at the magazine and then for the entire history department here at the University of Houston as well. But with that, I will turn it over to Cameron.
Thank you, Brandon. When we discuss how STEM and the humanities come together, it's almost exclusively tied for us to the T, technology. What has been of particular interest to us has been how data is being preserved, compiled, and used. For example, Houston Independent School District has begun digitizing their yearbooks. This isn't something I would have thought about doing or even looking for. Who would have cared about researching the Milby High School class of 1984? Well, we did. Even things as mundane as a social media post can act as a primary source for future scholars who may be trying to recreate, interpret, and understand what life was like in their distant year of 2024. This is a unique benefit we have today when we consider that so much of human history has been lost, especially those intimate details of everyday life. As a result, it's no wonder we get excited when we find a clay tablet that's leaving a 1-star review of a copper merchant in ancient Mesopotamia. The magazine itself is another of these intersections, a digitized delivery of a humanities product. Every issue is published both physically and digitally, generating a larger and more diverse readership because of its dual medium presence. By providing a QR code on this slide, I'm freely offering it to all of you without the potential for waste that comes with a physical product. Due to this digitization, we receive data about its outreach in ways that traditionally we have not been able to be measured. We know 41% of readers look at a page for less than a minute. Another 41, however, look at it for 30 minutes to an hour. So this expanded outreach enhances the voices of our authors, and more importantly, the people whose stories they have been entrusted with. These people are very much alive in this issue, and often their pictures are in the magazine along with their words and their truths. Before starting this internship, I had never heard of Harrisburg or its rich history. I never heard of Milby High School, the co-ed cadets, or Gordon Kwan. I vaguely understood where it was when it was explained, but prior to that, I thought it was somewhere northwest of here in Central Texas with a name like Harrisburg. Over the past 10 weeks, though, all of us have become intimately familiar with the story of Harrisburg, Milby, and its resilient community. We also learned about the great responsibility that comes with sharing other people's stories in an accurate and respectful manner. The time management when having free rein over your own schedule. Generally new appreciation for the publication process, and many other hard and soft skills that were intrinsically linked to our project. We want to take the time to thank Dr. Harwell and Valeris Gonzalez for their leadership and mentorship at this time. And that concludes our presentation. Thank you.
And I'd like to just give a pitch. If any of you are interested in subscribing to Houston History Magazine, please see Dr. Harwell afterwards. Now for our final group for the second section, I'd like to invite up Karina George from the DSI to speak on health disparities and impacts, and then the Pharis Fellows, as well.
Hi, everyone. The next group of students has spent 10 weeks researching health disparities and their adverse outcomes in Houston or Harris County, with a focus on diseases influenced by environment. They conceptualize their research with an understanding of the barriers and intersectionalities that vulnerable communities in Houston face when dealing with chronic health conditions. They worked very hard this summer to identify data sets and creatively use what was available to them to represent the complexities of their topics with visualizations. I'm proud to introduce our fellows, Nikki Achanta and Netra Nagor. Hiba Amjad, the third student in this group, unfortunately wasn't able to make it today due to an emergency, but you can learn more about her work on Friday, the second day of the Engaged Data Science Symposium. Now I'll hand it off to Nikki and Netra to talk about their incredible work.
Good morning, everyone. And today I want to talk about a little bit about what I've been working on this summer. And so, just diving right in. Through the Pharis Fellowship Program, firstly, I'd like to encourage everyone to look past the fancy analytical portions of my project. Much like the SIPHDH folks, much of our collective conversation this summer has been about populations, their interests, attitudes, behaviors, and potential risks and harms that they face. And in this way, my project aims to explore the definition of what a fence line community is, specifically located and situated around Harris County. And so, in collaboration with Rita, we kind of worked on a definition of what a fence line community is. We defined it for our projects as geographical areas that surround highly polluting facilities, and the density of the facilities that are located within these geographical areas are what may expose the residents of these areas to a higher level of exposure to air pollutants or contaminants. And in this way, it's hard to emphasize how long this conversation took, how much of my project has been dedicated to answering this very simple question, but its true complexity lies in the fact that it's hard to pinpoint specific structures within our built environment that actually risk us to these levels of exposure. And so in the past, I've worked on a similar research project through HITCH, Honors in Community Health. And so to this program, I kind of brought my initial interest in chronic disease burden, respiratory health, and access to primary care. And as you can see in the visualizations above, I was able to map clusters of and densities of facilities that are highly polluting facilities. And I was able to underlay it with DSHS data that I got that kind of chronicle the rates of chronic respiratory health conditions. And although I don't have the visualization that map out the location of primary care providers, stay tuned for Friday if you're interested in that. I was also able to visualize the estimated access to primary care that residents in these zip code areas may have access to, specifically focusing on allergists and immunologists. And in this way, I was able to conduct a geospatial analysis, of my interests at play here. And altogether, I hope that these visualizations can help locate what areas within Harris County are facing medical service gaps, or these visualizations can be used to inform the public on issues that they really should be paying attention to. And as an out-of-state student, I'm from Ohio, so Texas is very new to me. Following this August, it'll be my third year here. And so this issue is very personal to me, and hopefully it will become a part of my identity. So thank you.
Hello everyone, my name's Netra, and my project, Gasping for Funds, Understanding the Financial Burden of Chronic Respiratory Conditions in Houston. So the idea for this project was born out of a desire to study the economic disparities in our healthcare system, and my project took a local look at this by analyzing data from the Texas Department of Human and Health Services in the US Census to compare median incomes versus healthcare charge data at a zip code level around Houston. So this graph here, as you can see in the purple, is median incomes for zip codes around Houston, and the blue is self-pay rates, average self-pay rates in those zip codes. And as we can see, the amount spent is relatively the same based on, regardless of your median income. However, the percentage that people are spending in comparison to their median income nearly doubles for households that make less than $60,000 a year. And I decided to focus my project on chronic respiratory conditions due to 3 health determinants that are prevalent in Houston. one being air pollutants, elevated traffic levels, and a high heat index can all worsen these conditions and impose an undue financial burden on the residents of Harris County. This inequality that we see in the graph is also worsened for racial minorities throughout Houston, and the rest of my project also focuses on analyzing the financial burden for various vulnerable communities. So, thank you. Just to talk about my experience with Pharis a little bit, I think the main thing I took away from this is what all you can do with data analysis. When I first came into this, I thought it would be heavy technical, heavy behind the screen, which it was, but not in the way that I thought. It's really about trying to tell a story like all my other fellows have said. And additionally, it's given me so many more ideas for where I can take my research in the future and how I can, be someone that fights for various social advocacy causes. And I'm just really grateful that I had this opportunity to be able to, present my project and learn so much from this experience.
Another thing that I'll mention that I know that other fellows have already talked about, this is not my first research experience. I've been a part of a few labs here on campus, and they're very results-oriented and very, they try to push papers, and that's kind of the process in those labs. And so being part of an experience that kind of focuses on a narrative and humanizing that narrative is really refreshing, and that's kind of why I was drawn to the experience that Pharis had to offer. And I kind of mentioned this before, I'm an out-of-state student, so for me I hope for this to be very personal because it furthers my interests, so.
All right, and we're going to take one more break. I believe, let me quick check my schedule here. Oh, I see. Okay, there we go. Okay, I didn't do the PowerPoint wrong. You never know. All right, so we're going to take a short break and then come back for our final group of students. Again, we have some really incredible projects, and again, gives us a lot of hope for the future. So please take a break, and then we'll meet you all back. Thank you. Before we begin, I just wanted to thank you all for coming and celebrating the amazing work of our students. Again, I can't keep on saying this. It feels very hopeful at the end of the summer. All right, so our first presenter will be Dr. Nancy Beck Young for sharing stories from 1977. So can I invite up Dr. Nancy Beck Young as well as her 3 SIPHD interns.
Hello. I was telling Dr. Neumann I should have been up when we didn't have the microphone because I was either blessed or cursed with pipes that do not need amplification. So I'm one of the co-directors for Sharing Stories from 1977. Dr. Leandra Zarno, who is here, is the other co-director. Dr. Peggy Lindner is in charge of all of our technology, and Dr. Liz Rodwell, who is not here because she is in better places, is in charge of our UX experience. Sharing Stories from 1977 aims to tell the stories of all 2,000 participants at the National Women's Conference, which occurred in Houston, Texas in November of 1977. This was a federally funded conference for women around the country to come together and discern what they wanted from their federal government. Just kind of sit with that for a moment and imagine a universe in which Congress appropriated money to study the policy needs of American women. Is your head kind of spinning and separating from your body a bit at the unreality of something like that happening in the 21st century? It probably should. This was an amazing, magical moment in the history of American politics and grassroots activism. Our 3 interns this summer worked on 3 different aspects of the project. We are building a massive demographic database, and they worked, each of them, to clean the data for 2 different states, so 6 states total, to make sure that what we put up is correct and not wrong. They also worked together to conduct 1 oral history with 1 participant, and finally they have co-authored a news feature about their experiences. Our 3 wonderful interns are Ebony Boyd, who is a senior majoring in anthropology with a minor in medicine and society and a particular interest in human factors psychology, public history, and digital humanities research. Janet Adeyemi is a senior majoring in computer information systems with a minor in business administration and a particular interest in data analytics, public history, and digital humanities research. And last but not least, Kamala Arendt is a post-baccalaureate with a background in neuropsychology, research, and sociology. She is majoring in digital media with a focus on human factors psychology and digital humanities research. And I'll turn it over to you guys.
Good morning, or early afternoon, almost. Thank you, Dr. Young, for the introduction. We wanted to first start out by telling you a little bit about the sharing stories from our perspective. So we saw that the Sharing Stories project amplifies the life stories of the National Women's Conference participants. It's a digital conglomeration of individual archives that are comprised of perspectives, experiences, and ephemera. This conglomeration employs a feminist approach to emphasize the diversity of women's liberation. Moving on to a little bit about what we did, we conducted weekly readings on feminism, data cleaning, oral history, methodology, and public history and the digital humanities. We also performed data cleaning, as Dr. Young said, conducted an oral history interview, and wrote a news feature. Our work permitted us to hone many skills, as you see up here, some of which included digital research, oral history, interviewing, and public writing and communication. It also taught us about effective communication for public audiences, social responsibility, and the intersection between digital methods and humanities, which is also digital humanities.
Our first task was data cleaning. Each of us were assigned 2 states to work on each with a large spreadsheet of delegates from different states. This is, on the left is a picture of the Excel spreadsheet that we used. We used green to signify the verified existing data that was already there, and then blue was for the information that we found by ourselves and that we filled in. We used various documents such as the Major Rando document, NWC registration form, maiden reports, Spirit of Houston, and newspapers.com to confirm, add, and modify information on the spreadsheet, ensuring the accuracy of demographic, personal, and professional details. The outcome of the data cleaning process was a well-verified and accurate digital database of the women who participated in the National Women's Conference. Data cleaning provides a solid foundation for preserving and interpreting the diverse voices of the women in attendance. Some of the things that we enjoyed, for one, was the cultural insights provided by the newspaper articles, which highlighted social priorities at the time. For example, the article on the right shows that a Wisconsin delegate was interviewed about interracial dating a few years after the Civil Rights Act. Another interesting fact is that the newspaper actually used to publicize private information. In 1968, the Chronicle Tribune of Marion, Indiana, publicized a section called Hospital Notes, where they actually publicized information that contained details such as visiting hours, addresses, amongst other private patient information. Most of all, cleaning data by researching, correcting errors, and filling in missing information was fulfilling, knowing it aids in preserving historical records.
Our second task this summer was to conduct an oral history interview with our chosen delegate, Dr. Gloria Kumagai. We first learned oral history methodology and virtual interview techniques. As the point of contact, I coordinated with Dr. Kumagai to set an interview date and send over the proper documentation. Then Camila, Janet, and I conducted research into her background so we could fashion questions specific to her life. Oral histories enable those involved in the National Women's Conference to share their stories leading up to, during, and after the conference. The oral history we conducted will be published on the Sharing Stories website and will also be included in the University of Houston Library's Sharing Stories audiovisual collection. Conducting the oral history shaped our understanding of effective communication, social responsibility, and the intersection of data, digital methods, and humanities in various ways. As the point of contact, it was important for me to remain professional, yet friendly when communicating with Dr. Kumagai, especially when encountering issues such as having to reschedule due to Hurricane Beryl. Maintaining the balance allowed her to feel more comfortable with opening up about her experiences with misogyny and racism. While collecting and processing Dr. Kumagai's personal memories and history, we needed to adhere to the project's ethics of care to ensure that she was given the opportunity to have a say in how the oral history will be used. Dr. Kumagai was one of the delegates listed in the spreadsheet Janet cleaned, so we were taking information from a large data set and using it to draft questions for the interview. The oral history provides a real-world narrative that isn't captured in quantitative data because we are often unable to understand the nuances of someone's life experiences by solely viewing demographic information. Each of us has varying experience in conducting interviews, but none of us have done an oral history. So the opportunity to see Dr. Kumagai and hear her voice while she told her story gave us a deeper sense of the impact the conference had on the women who attended.
For our third assignment, we wrote a 300-word news feature to show our perspective working on the project that would be featured on the homepage of the Sharing Stories website. The news feature needed to include why the Sharing Stories project matters and also a deliverable that we had the freedom to choose. So we chose the oral history interview because it was so impactful. It was going to, when we approached this assignment, it needed to provide a behind-the-scenes look at our oral history experience. So we were required to blend why the Sharing Stories matters as well as the oral history deliverable. Sorry about that. We really liked this assignment because it provided us an opportunity to share our input, and it also gave us a chance to break out of typical academic writing and think creatively and write creatively. This assignment also addresses the three different topics of effective communication, social responsibility, and the intersection of data, digital methods, and humanities, where once again, these things were evident, such as ensuring that the news feature was succinct, providing enough info to introduce readers to importance of oral history, but also using a benevolent approach to handle Dr. Kumagai's story so that her voice was not lost in translation as we expressed our own opinions and experience. Additionally, this digital humanities work feature is at the center of data, digital methods, humanities, because it contains qualitative information, humanistic perspectives, and was created and will be hosted digitally. This assignment was a new experience and a great learning opportunity because it challenged us to meet the word limit, but it was rewarding because we were able to break away from that typical academic expectation.
So sharing stories blends digital methods like digitization and data management with public history to document and preserve all women's experiences in the National Women's Conference. Unlike conventional methods, such as books or articles that often focus on a single perspective, sharing stories offers a more inclusive and immersive approach by using visualizations, oral histories, and news features to communicate all women's diverse perspectives and struggles. Sharing Stories, Ethics of Care, and Feminist Digital Humanities Manifesto reflects their commitment to the respectful and benevolent handling of individual histories. The project aims to repair the overarching women's history narrative by highlighting voices that have been historically excluded. Through thorough research and oral interviews, we have contributed to the project mission to build a more inclusive, accurate, and impactful historical record. We're walking away from this internship with a deeper appreciation for the extensive work involved in maintaining a public history project, the importance of preserving personal testimonies, and the significance of the National Women's Conference and women's history. As Sharing Stories from 1977 continues to repair gaps in the women's history narrative, future generations will be empowered to continue the fight for women's rights. Thank you to our leadership, Dr. Zarno, Dr. Young, Dr. Davidson, for your guidance the past 10 weeks. We've learned a lot from you. Thank you for coming to our TED Talk.
All right, I'd like to now introduce or welcome back Dr. Andrew Capral for Texas Education and Social Services and Pharis Group.
Okay, so as our last group of panelists from the Pharis Fellowship is coming up, I'll talk a little bit about their projects. The Texas Education and Social Services projects are particularly close to my heart. As a former classroom teacher in HISD and a person who got their doctorate in educational policy, I am a researcher in the space that these three are emerging researchers in, and have really valued the opportunity to learn from them and their focus on parts of the education system that don't get enough focus. Public education in particular, as many of you know, over the last 20 years, has become very much a regimented game of looking at test scores and and viewing education as really the production of a sort of uniform product rather than the flourishing of an individual. And these projects take a close look at groups of people that are left behind or potentially left behind in that system. We'll start with, I believe our first project is on vouchers and vulnerabilities, how school choice affects special education in Texas, and our presenter, Anua Ali Opinion.
Hi, thank you, Andrew. My project is on school vouchers and how that affects special education in Texas. Basically, I wanted to explore the viability of school choice legislation in Texas and how the capacity of private institutions to meet the needs of special education students. This project was particularly close to my heart because I do have a community service project where I work with students who are disabled or medically fragile, and because school choice is a hot button issue right now in Texas, I wanted to see if these private institutions, private special education institutions, are accessible location-wise, financially, and in their requirements for enrollment for students who are highly vulnerable. And so one of the visualizations that I created, basically, it's a little bit hard to see on the presentation here, but it visualizes the distance from every Texas county to their nearest school. There wasn't an existing data set, so I had to create a data set by hand of the school's financial information, of their locations, and then I used R to basically match each county with the closest school and create these two graphics. Essentially, they illustrate that a lot of counties, especially in East Texas, are far away, so over 60 miles away from their nearest schools, with some counties being hundreds of miles away from the nearest private special education school. The median was 56.39 miles away, meaning that the average person in most counties would have to travel more than 50 miles to get to their nearest school. And as for my experiences in the Pharis Fellowship, one of my biggest things was in creating these visualizations, there is a inherent give and take, because you realize that when you're visualizing this data, there's information that you obfuscate by making certain decisions. For example, it's not obvious by looking at this map, but there are only 60 private special education institutions in all of Texas, and most of them are centralized in Harris County, Dallas County, Tarrant County, and Bexar County. The dark blue areas in West Texas are areas where there's only one school. So it seems as if there's more options than, the map kind of makes it seem as if there's more options than there actually are in those areas, which I think is just really interesting. There's no good way to show everything at once, and so it necessitates having multiple visualizations and really digging deep and making conscious choices in how you're going to present your information. And then another thing that I just wanted to touch on was, in going into the fellowship, I thought that, in popular media, when you see data science research being done, it's some guy walks into a room, is I'm gonna crunch the numbers real quick, and then types technical jargon into a console and science happens, And there was a lot of hard stuff involved in in doing data science research, and not hard stuff as in data cleaning and doing analysis, but hard stuff as in leading with an open mind and an open heart and really engaging with information about the communities that you're doing research on. So looking at how disabled people might be multiply marginalized, and the inequities that exist even in public education for disabled individuals, and being able to consider all of that in your research was something that I found both interesting and very enriching, and something that I didn't expect from this program, the amount that I learned and gained from, in terms of all the things that I learned about public health and the groups of people that I've worked extensively with. So, thank you.
Okay, our second project is from Elaine Vo, a biology major, investigating the relationship between Texas school district healthcare expenditure and academic outcomes.
Hi everyone. So I think it's safe to say, coming to school, there's lots of people that impact us. And my project mainly came from the idea or the thought that who impacts us when we go to school. And normally, I would guess we would think about teachers, principals, things like that. But at the beginning of this project, I thought of more of like school nurses, and I just thought of the other avenues that might affect academic outcomes. So upon investigating and using actually the Texas Education Agency data set, I decided to explore district healthcare expenditures towards healthcare services. And generally, this is the DAG that I made with all the academic outcomes, including test scores, graduation, dropout rates, career readiness rates, as well as attendance rates. And I got some unexpected and expected results. Just a little sneak peek. If you guys want more, there is tomorrow and the day after symposium. But school districts in Texas generally spent about $81 per student, and there was a normal distribution which was expected, but unexpectedly I found some very strange correlations between the independent variable that I chose, which was the healthcare expenditures per student, and the actual academic outcomes. And I think in general this fellowship or experience has taught me that you can come in with a hypothesis, but it kind of reminded me that your hypothesis can be wrong, and very much of the time it'll actually be wrong. And I think research is something that I knew coming into it, like, okay, research has been going on for years and years, hundreds of but I think I forgot the fact that you do a research project and then you come out with even more questions. And I think that's something that is really amazing, and you can follow your whole research trajectory and career from just a single question that you maybe started in undergrad. And I think this experience really reminded me, like, this is just the start, and it's really exciting, and I hope I stem forward from here.
Okay, and our last project is language acquisition and academic success for refugee students in Texas public education, and Yasmin Sultani, a biomedical engineering major.
Thank you, Andrew. Okay, so my main driver for this project revolves around the fact that Texas is one of the states with highest number of refugees in the country. And as someone who wholeheartedly cares about refugee population, I'm very grateful that I got a chance to work on this project this summer. But I basically tracked down different factors that could impact language acquisition in refugees. So I investigated things like how much time they spent in the U.S., or their involvement in special education programs, ESL programs, bilingual programs. And the way that I assessed their language proficiency was by looking at TALPAS test scores. So their speaking score, reading, listening, writing scores, and so on. And so the overall purpose is to really enhance the educational experience of these students by thinking about policies that we could make, or even resource allocation to support language acquisition and just enhance the overall academic experience of these students. And one way that Pharis Fellowship helped me shaping my understanding of data, apart from me making amends with R not being one of my favorite software to use, it was by understanding the limitless applications of data. As someone who comes from a really STEM-focused background, I think it was extremely rewarding to witness so many people embarking in these projects related to social determinants of health, or even just social causes. And yeah, It was great also to take part in the different workshops hosted by the Digital Humanities, or the workshops our mentors gave, or even like doing reading discussions with my Pharis fellow. I found that it added so much value in my research experience, and it reinforced my desire in undertaking interdisciplinary kind of work in the future. So thank you.
All right, thank you. And now last but certainly not least, I'd like to invite up Dr. David Mazzella for the 1771 project and our amazing interns. And just as a note, with a lot of these projects, we have 3 SIFT interns, but there's a lot of other interns as well. Many of them for the 1771 are here today as well.
Right. Is this on? Good morning. It's still the morning. Since we've heard so much about storytelling today, it seems fitting to show how literary studies handles stories and storytellers with the concept of genre. Storytelling, I would argue, is a way to share knowledge. It's a form of knowledge production. Genre tells you where it's directed. The 1771 project uses digital methods to clean, assemble, and compare texts published in 1771 across 3 cities, London, Edinburgh, and Philadelphia. We did this to offer a new and unique perspective on literary and cultural history by providing a cross-sectional view of a single year's historical events and publications spanning 3 cities. Reducing our scope to 1 year's publications in 3 locations allows us to organize our data by genre, author, printers, and so forth. This kind of historical cross-cutting helps deliver new insights from those books, their authors, their cities, and that year. This project was inspired by a research question, an authentic question. What can a year's genres tell us about the storytellers and their audiences? This summer, a project team consisting of SIF and English interns focused on 1771's fictional texts, its novels, scanning and cleaning about 20 or so novels to prepare them for digital analysis and comparison. Our summer's deliverables included this fictional subcorpus, a project website, and some author biographies, along with workflow documentation. These will support continued processing of texts until every literary genre from that year is completed and made available for analysis. These work products will provide proof of concept and prototypes for internal and external grants for the coming year. SIF interns spent the summer learning how to craft and present a variety of data, which they combined with humanist readings of texts, genres, and authors' bios. Today, you'll hear Haiyan Huang, Anissa Khan, and Reese Simmons describe their roles in the process of distributing workflows, developing the website, and conducting the text cleaning. You'll also learn about their majors. So, if you're wondering, why study a single year? The answer is because picking any year, even a supposedly empty year, like 1771, will reveal to a careful observer why 1771 is, in fact, the world's most important year, at least from the perspective of 1772. I'm going to hand it over now to Haiyan.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for making it to the end and listening to our amazing presentation. I will start on the background and the overview of the 1771 project. So we have 4 main points highlighted for our goal. The first is to transform historical texts to resonate with the modern audience, to represent content to uncover hidden patterns and themes, identifying overarching trends in genre and authorship, and also just to discover new insights through fresh perspectives. So as many of you may be asking, why 1771? Well, 1771 is considered to be an empty year, meaning that it lacks a significant historical categorization. It does fall within the Enlightenment period, a time of rapid change and diverse literary responses. So the Enlightenment was marked by a flourishing of ideas, of people challenging the norms and exploring new concepts. So because many may not recognize this year within a defined historical context, it actually allows us to highlight the richness of the written works within the period as well as their varied genres. So what is genre? In our project, genre serves as a framework for categorizing texts. Genre has a sort of ephemeral quality, evolves over time, and it's always influenced by a period's social standards and expectations. Authorship also plays a crucial role in shaping genres. So prominent authors often push the boundaries of genre, leading our minds to associate certain genres with certain authors. The evolution of genre reflects the changing perspectives and thoughts of people over time. So for reference, here are the different types of genres within the year 1771. On the left side shows fiction genres cleaned within summer 2024, and on the right side just shows fiction genres within the entire 1771 literary corpus. We can see that, interestingly, epistolary novels, or novels that include a series of letters, were the most commonly produced during this time. This is just a visual of the technical work done for our project. To ensure an efficient workflow, we divided our 7-member team into teams A and B, each tasked with specific responsibilities. So each team cleaned text weekly, maintained a consistent task schedule, and continually revised the master list of word corrections. The file managers, Anissa and Neem, also kept a organized schedule to ensure that work was being done and stored in a shared space. Team A created a data cleaning presentation for new researchers, while Team B, Anissa and Lauren, developed the website prototype. So our work was largely collaborative. We had to improve our communication a couple times and adjust the schedule regularly. While our teams had specific roles, we frequently supported each other and provided crucial feedback on the website and the presentations through individual meetings outside of the meetings that we had with Dr. Mazzella. And this flexibility significantly enhanced our overall effectiveness as a group. And now Anissa will speak on the project website development.
Alrighty, thank you so much, Hayan. And hello, everyone. My name is Anissa Khan, and I will be sharing about our website development journey. So Team B was assigned a responsibility: construct a prototype to house the work of 1771. So as the lead developer, and Lauren, wave your hand, our associate developer, we both were challenged on how to communicate goals of the project through a website. And so as architects of the website and also members of the humanities world, we evaluated our skills to distribute labor in order to fulfill our social responsibility, providing a functional yet stylish prototype representative of the team's work. So go ahead and please scan the QR code to visit our site. We spent a lot of late nights on it. Our goal was to transform the team's work as a visual, submit to grant applications, and most importantly, a resource for researchers for their scholarship. So our workflow required effective communication. We presented countless drafts in meetings for feedback. So we have the social responsibility to implement effective communication so our colleagues' hard work and their visions were shown accurately to audiences. Our site needs to be clear and concise when delivering Team 1771's motivations without confusion. In other words, let the website do the talking for us. So takeaways from our tasks were us considering multiple perspectives, the teams and also our audience. We considered what we wanted while planning methods for engagement. We could have all the great makings of the website, but it wouldn't matter if our website was hard to navigate or boring. So, in the end, the prototype should showcase our project, orienting audiences with pages titled About and Read Like a Historian to help understand 1771's purpose. And so go ahead and scan the QR code. It's going to take us to our author biographies, which is our second deliverable. So, novels both teams cleaned were written by authors wanting a literary escape from reality. So they used life as inspiration when crafting their literature. Humanizing authors of the past helps invite audiences into our project, and providing accurate biographies was the team's scholarly responsibility. As authors of these biographies, we made editorial choices on what information should be displayed to public audiences. And so as interns, we gained user experience from Dr. Elizabeth Rodwell's seminar about user experience to craft an accessible website for audiences regardless of their prior knowledge to British literature. One of my aha moments in the internship was how I could make our website inviting by creating the page Read Like a Historian. The production of this page changed my thinking how digital methods contribute to the humanities. It was taking our audience, you all, behind the scenes of the work done by Team 1771. And now I will pass it on to Reese with his take on text cleaning.
Summer 1771 team conducted digital cleaning on about 25 era corporate company early journalists. We did this to discover, preserve, and represent the culture of our MTN via literary history. To do this, we use edible recognition OCR technology to take their knowledge and transform it into text file that we added to map the STEM. Kim, a member of the Digital Humanities Core Facility, created a Python code that transformed it into the retail block, transforming linear text into a so-called bag of words. Open to analysis for any direction. This technology enables us to read our corpus differently. This is because OCR helps us transform what is once a linear text into a bag of words. More influences can be counted and studied. And we are able to frequency word for and between text to discover a new field of historical knowledge. The week-long Packard reviews our project complete dependent on technology. Our project was solved because we want internet, our program tool, and editing software. I spent several hours doing that manually get technology usually annual demands. If we have a long time, I had to prioritize that, and we organize team based on ministers and available power.
Alrighty, thank you, Reese. So I have one last QR code for y'all to scan. We can't really end this presentation without thanking our lead developer, Jun Kim. So go ahead and scan this QR code to learn more about his work. So we transform fictional text to identify, preserve, and also represent them to modern day audiences as an entire corpus, a collection of data sets available for a variety of analysis. We did this to show gaps between historical memory, which is moments people refer effortlessly. In historical inquiry, where one conducts active investigation and relearning of the past. Their contrast provides pleasures of serendipity, the joys of going down the rabbit hole, and lastly, the discovery of people and their events you never knew existed. And thank you all for allowing us to share our work to you all, and for staying till the end of the presentation. Reach out to Team 1771 if you'd like to keep the conversation going or ask questions. And lastly, we would like to thank our English interns, the DHCF faculty, and of course, the SIPHD internship program. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. That concludes our student presentations, but we have one final voice that we have yet to hear from. This person has been integral to everything working and everything coming together. I would like to invite up Dr. Linda Garcia Merchant, a public humanities data librarian for the Digital Humanities Core Facility.
Ooh, thank you guys. And let's give another round of a hand for all of these students that did this work and faculty that worked with you all summer. This was, I don't know about y'all, but this was amazing. Thank you, family and friends and the generous UH community of researchers, staff, and librarians for making today a reality for these students, their projects, their instructors, all of us, their family members who are here. If you're a family member, can you just raise your hand? Because, when we say it takes a village, it really does. And so thank you for coming out and maybe getting a glimpse into what your students have actually been doing all summer. Until my mother passed away, she still had no idea what digital humanities was. And so I get it. So much goes into programming, strategizing, organizing to make this internship and showcase happen. And I want to just take this time to specifically thank the UH Library and all the librarians who continue to support the work we do in digital humanities that include my boss, Taylor Davis Van Atta, Head of Research Services. Thank you, Leo Martin and Susan Hoover, who created an amazing Adventures in Metadata digital workshop. Thank you, Bethany Scott and Emily Vincent, who created an equally cool transcription digital workshop. And thank you to all of our digital research specialists, our student labor, especially Carolyn and June, for showing up all summer to facilitate the internship and not blinking once when I said, we're gonna do Legos. And they took it on in a way. Along with Shine, AJ, Kalina, Valeria, Michelle, Carlos, Alejandro, and Navid, and I'm getting choked up, I'm sorry, who over the last 2 years have done so much to do the heavy lifting to help us do research, put on programs, events, and build our micro-credentialing courses. There is no DH Core Facility without our student labor. 2 years ago, I was hired to facilitate the creation of the Digital Humanities Core Facility, or the Core, as we've nicknamed it, as a partnership between the UH Libraries and the Division of Research, as you heard Dr. Neuhauser mention a little earlier. The goal was to create a resource of materials, training, and infrastructure to support research at all levels of experience and ability. Ability. Just want to say that one more time. What we've done in that very short time is build a community of practitioners, scholars, and students that recognize the benefit of working, learning, and creating together to build better research outcomes. We are a community of practice that began with building relationships, engaging our university landscape of students, scholars, and practitioners in conversations of intention, to then watch ideas and connections grow across disciplines into what we've experienced today in the hard work of these teams. The goal of our community of practice is knowledge building and sharing at all levels, from our primary investigator and research faculty to our undergraduates. To make this happen, we've been fortunate to have decision makers like Dr. Neuhauser challenge us to solve the question that began with, what if? What if we created a summer internship program for the digital humanities? Our search for answers didn't start from scratch. We reached out to programs and staff, including USLDH, that were already on these paths and asked them how their existing models could work in partnership with what we wanted to do. It was in those conversations with the history department and engaged data science that this summer internship occurred. The research projects you experience today is a small part of the ongoing community of students we teach and learn from every day to build bigger and better models of digital research and praxis that is implemented in the classroom and the community. Thank you, Christina Neumann, and the Department of History for building this team-based approach to experiential learning that the Core will move forward as a permanent summer internship program once we've secured external funding. It costs money to do this work. It continues to cost money, but we've got a model now that takes quantitative and qualitative research methods, pulls them together in this team-based approach that is entirely about student success. We believe this approach mirrors the innovative and exciting character that makes the University of Houston, and by extension, the city of Houston, such a successful place to live and learn that, as paraphrased and identified by Thomas Padilla, one of our speakers this summer, has become recognized nationally as the Houston model. Thank you again, and we look forward to seeing you at future research events.
All right, that now ends the program. The only thing I would ask is get some food on the way out. The Pharis Fellows and the SIPHD interns, if I can see you up front, we're going to take some photos, and then otherwise have a wonderful day. Thank you for joining us.